Hello, viewers, and welcome to the very first episode of Current Medicine, the web series. I'm your host, Rob Vanbergen of Pain Free for Life, and today Dr. Hache and myself are going to talk about what may just be the most important aspect of our bodies, our gut. Not only is this subject absolutely fascinating, but it's also critical that we learn how to care for our digestive system so that we can live the best lives possible. All right, so as I said, today I'm joined by Dr. John Hache, and we're going to be talking about gut health. So what will we be covering today in this specifically? We're going to be going over what gut health is linked to, the microbiome, which is very important, right, John?
It's a big thing. It's the buzzword right now.
It is. How all diseases begin in the gut-brain connection, the importance of the entire digestive system, and you'll find out what we mean by that shortly. Dietary changes, digestive health supplementation, microcurrent therapy, and then of course we'll recap so you don't have to take notes through this whole thing.
Good.
All right, so let's get started. So what is gut health often linked to? So if you do a quick Google search, you'll find that some of the most prevalent things are massive sugar cravings, upset stomach, unintentional weight changes, whether that be up or down,
Right.
trouble sleeping and persistent fatigue, eczema and other skin conditions, so I guess it manifests on the skin,
Absolutely.
food intolerances, and particularly autoimmune conditions.
Mm-hmm.
So
There's over 100 autoimmune conditions that have been identified, and it's going up every year.
It's like they're inventing new ones as they go,
That's right.
Yeah. And I think that these 7 things are 7 things, but I think we're going to get into how it is actually linked to practically everything that's wrong with us.
Yeah, it's almost like an epicenter, and everything spins out gravitationally from there.
Yeah, all goes wrong, right?
Yeah.
So I think we're now going to go on to looking at the microbiome, which has got to be my favorite topic now.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
you really.
So, microbiome. So this is the genetic material of all the microbes, so bacteria, fungi, protozoa, viruses that live on and inside the human body. So the interesting thing I found is that when we're in our mother's womb, we're like completely clean of these
Is that right?
of these microbes. Yeah.
So it all starts from.
It all starts from being born.
It starts at birth, and then
So,
it goes downhill from there.
Yeah, I think there is a small amount when you're in the womb, but you're not exposed to them. You're protected, right?
Yeah.
So the interesting thing is that when you're born and you exit the birth canal through a natural birth, you get covered in microbes.
Right?
You get exposed to them.
That's true. Yeah.
And the thing that struck me as super interesting was that means that children that are C-sections miss out on that very early exposure to these microbes.
Is that a good thing?
I don't think that's a good thing, because we may not want to have, in theory, we may not want to have bacteria, fungi, all these things all over our body, but it's actually what makes up. I think, isn't there more?
It becomes a protective coating.
It does. It's like what keeps us going. So this was the information I found, was that children born via C-section have a higher rate of asthma, immune disease, and other conditions.
And it can be it can be related to
not coming out of the birth canal.
Wow.
But it actually extends onwards here. So breastfeeding.
Okay.
So children who breastfeed actually get special sugars from the breast milk that nurture the bacteria in the gut. So if they are bottle fed, they miss out on all of these extra things that help to enhance the immune system and the gut and build this microbiome. And I think
so we were both breastfed, right?
Yes, yeah. And not C-section for me. What about you?
No
C-section for you.
No.
So we have the optimum microbiome, but it actually takes.
Why we're so healthy.
Yeah, but it actually takes 2 years to develop a healthy balance of bacteria in the gut. So from birth to 2, you're still developing this balance.
Okay.
Right. So that's kind of an interesting thing. And when you think about it that way as well, babies don't really get too sick, right? They have quite good immune systems when they're breastfed.
Yeah, the mother's breast milk actually contains an element that actually boosts the immune system. So it's if you're not breastfed, you kind of miss out on that
You
as
kind of
well.
do. And that's not to say that there's anything wrong with, I mean, people need to use formula sometimes for a variety of reasons. It's just that it seems to be a fact that this is the case, right?
Well, there seems to be a new thing that's going on in the gynecological department. Is that it's easier for them to be able to pick their dates when they have the rooms available.
Yes.
So that way they're able to project when they say, well, we'll do C-section because I have a room available between that time and that time,
Yeah.
instead of having to wait until the mother goes through all the process.
Yeah.
See,
They do seem to be, it seems to be becoming more of a requested thing to do C-sections
it's
for
requested by the,
convenience.
yeah, it's a very convenient thing,
Yeah, it is.
but it takes a whole lot away from the baby.
It,
And
it definitely does. And we actually see this, I know we're in a relatively small city compared to some, but my wife Ariel works at the hospital from time to time,
yeah,
and she's done a couple of shifts in maternity, and more often than not, it's scheduled C-sections more than natural births. And they move through their scheduled C-sections. They try to keep the ward clear. And if natural births come in, they deal with them, but they seem to have a very defined C-section based thing. And I think it's become a bit of a health fad for women as well, in the sense that if they could get out of having the natural birth and opt to have a C-section, it has become a more prevalent thing. That doesn't mean it's good for either party,
no,
really.
it's convenience.
Yeah.
That's all.
And then you're left with, not to mention the scar, you're left with, that's that electrical blockage, and the healing period much longer. So,
And you go through the whole thing of delivery anyway.
yeah, 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 before you get to that point, right?
Yeah,
So it's interesting how important these early stages appear to be in developing what eventually controls
the
our body.
microbiome.
Yeah. So our passengers. Okay, so there are sort of three roles of microbes within our microbiome that I found. Okay. We've got our little harmless guys that are left alone, that they just exist in our body. We live with them. They do us no harm. They don't really do us any good either.
Symbiotic relationship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they love feeding off of what we eat, and they don't take too much away from us. And they also sort of act as a distraction for some of the bad bacteria in our gut that's like, I'm gonna beat you up and bash them around a
Yeah,
little bit.
yeah. So, and they also they give back.
They give back,
They
yeah.
give back.
They give back just by existing.
Uh,
Then there's those that want to harm us, but that we live with, and we live with them every day of our lives. The example that was cited in this case was bacteria in your mouth, right? We live with bacteria in our mouth. We brush it off, but it comes back.
always the same in the same positions, and
Yeah,
although different kinds of bacteria.
yeah.
It's extraordinary when you think about it.
It is, it is. And what they're doing, they're actually harming us, but our body is just so used to them. It's not like we have an immune response in our
Yeah.
mouth that chases them off. And I think these sorts of bacteria exist throughout our entire body and manifest in different ways. They're not a big enough deal for us to go crazy and set high alert, right?
Well, if everything's in balance and the oxygen, the each cell has enough oxygen,
Yeah,
then they kind of stay at bay. Everything is works very well.
it's when it's out of whack that they go
Yeah.
crazy.
What I noticed, for example, when a person dies, if you ever watch these channels where they have these investigators that come in after they find the body and is dead and
Yeah,
whatnot.
yeah, yeah.
And you know, how do they know how long the person's been dead? They stick a
Fly,
thermometer.
and this temperature, flies, maggots, all that
Yeah,
sort of stuff,
flies
right?
and maggots. Say, where did these maggots and all these flies come from? Actually, it wasn't in the carpet.
They're already there.
They're in your body,
Yeah,
and they just transform as pH drops. Then your bacteria starts to take over.
yeah. I'm not surprised. I mean, we have
I mean,
so
there's
much stuff.
250 times more bacteria in our body and parasites and everything else than we have cells. So I'm not
Well,
surprised.
and it doesn't matter what we do. You can be so obsessed with washing your hands, you're never going to get all that bacteria off.
Nope.
And it's actually probably
Thank God.
more harmful to get it off, right?
It is.
We need this stuff. So then finally, the other category we have in there is the friendly bacteria that we want to exist in our bodies. And these help us digest our food, and they kind of help us get rid of things that we shouldn't eat, like that hamburger you thought, I really think that's a good idea. Then you think it's not so much. That friendly bacteria is going to help break it down, because your gut is like, no, this is a bad idea. So much fat. Why?
So you have to go beyond meat every now and then, beyond the beef.
Yeah, definitely.
Plant food.
So the immune system will attack and kill foreign bacteria. But the crazy thing about our microbiome, despite the fact that we're so full of all this bacteria, is that it has evolved to the point where it actually tells the brain and the body not to kill it, and it works. So it's like this symbiotic relationship, as you said, has become so evolved over time that we get to this point where we start to think, what is in control, the gut or the brain, right? And it really does seem that it is our guts.
So we don't really know if there's so much more bacteria than we have human cells.
Yeah.
Then who are you?
I think I'm bacteria, actually. So the microbiome, is it in control? You see the little cute picture here, the brain. Yeah, boost my serotonin, baby.
Oh, yeah.
So research has actually suggested that the microbiome itself may talk directly to our brain, which we just mentioned. In fact, over 85% of our body's serotonin, which is an important messenger substance for nerve cells, is actually produced in our gut.
Serotonin is what keeps us with pink glasses, if you will. We see life in a positive way.
Yes.
When serotonin goes down, we get depressed.
Yeah. And then this may be an interesting correlation too here, right? So lots of people, I don't know what the statistics are specifically, but loads of people around the world have depression. They suffer from depression.
Yeah.
And it is very likely that there is a connection between your gut imbalance and this depression.
And the production of serotonin.
Yeah. And this, whether it's up or low, however it may be, whether it's hyperactive or, not working enough, there's gonna be an imbalance. And that's an important thing to remember. It's never about, the body is never about it's never about having enough. It's about having that balance, right? You want to have a balance. You don't want to be.
That's what we call homeostasis. Everything is in balance.
Exactly. Yeah. So studies are believing that the gut is doing this to communicate with the vagus nerve, which is our body's information superhighway. And we know this, we work with this all the time.
Yeah.
The vagus nerve sends more, 80% more, is that it? 80% more signals to the brain?
Let's say 7 times more signals to the brain than the brain to the gut.
The gut. So it's actually producing these things and saying, hey, brain, think about this. We need to do this. That's coming from our guts. So since the brain decides where and what we eat, the microbiome actually has an extremely vested interest in controlling what we do, because it's going to feed directly off of what we put into our bodies, right?
Yeah, sure.
So as our gut health deteriorates, people have a tendency to sort of eat what they crave. So the question is this a sign that what they crave is not really what's best for them? So if your healthy gut has been dominated by unhealthy microbes, are they not asking you to eat what they want to keep growing and increasing and breeding?
Well, grass grows through asphalt, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The necessity to survive is a driver.
Yeah.
So it could be very well that this bacteria, to survive, will actually send out signals, feed me.
Yeah. And if what I want is pizza every day, it's not the best thing for me, but I'm going to keep eating it if I'm satisfying those cravings. And it's not just going to, it's going to increase, right? Increase, feed me more pizza.
Talk about that. I think not too many people think about that.
I don't think so, but I think it is definitely the way we go. We get habituated into what we eat. And you never really ask the question why. I never used to eat dessert after every meal. So why do I now? Something's calling to me from deeper in. The real me is speaking. The real me. Yeah. All that bacteria. So the microbiome, what we eat. So different bacteria in our gut like different foods, right? So that makes sense.
That makes sense.
So if we eat a lot of fast food, then the bacteria in our gut that loves fast food thrives, it grows, it reproduces.
Feed me.
Yeah, feed me more. If we eat leafy greens, then the bacteria that loves these types of foods thrives instead. So the way I saw it framed by a doctor was that if you think about it like a garden,
Yeah,
you grow what you plant,
that's right.
right?
Yeah,
So we're planting healthy food, we grow healthy bacteria.
right.
We plant unhealthy food, we grow unhealthy bacteria. So my example here, if you eat hamburgers, then the fast food loving bacteria thrives and overruns the gut, and it sends signals to the brain saying, "Give me more hamburgers, I'm hungry."
Oh my God. Although, do you think McDonald's knows about this?
I think they might. I think they might be banking on it, actually.
There's a conspiracy
It's a
going on.
conspiracy. So yeah, this vicious cycle just sort of sends us down that rabbit hole, right? We're unbalanced because we had a couple of slip ups, and then we're going to suffer the consequences long term because it doesn't take long for the microbiome to start to change based on what's in there. And it's all about balance. And if we throw one thing out of whack because we eat too much of one thing, and it's an unhealthy thing, because I don't think there's definitely, a needed balance, but if you're eating all healthy leafy greens, you're probably going to feel healthier than if you eat lots of stuff that bogs you down, even if you have a stronger balance of those healthy.
So you have to have a variety of things.
I think you do have to have a variety of things. That's the only way I can see it working
Yeah.
anyway.
Otherwise, allergy has always been defined and described as eating the same thing
Over and over again. So even if I decide to myself, I need to go on the blandest diet possible, let's take something simple like white rice and chicken. Over time, my body's going to get accustomed and sick of this, and it's going to start reacting to it.
Yeah.
And we see this in people that have a gluten allergy or something, and they go off of gluten, and then they can occasionally eat gluten afterwards, even if they have that gluten allergy.
Yeah.
And allergy tests do reflect that as well. I had a serious sugar allergy some years ago. I did an allergy test. And after doing that allergy test, I went off of sugar for 6 months, came back, and it no longer showed me as being allergic to sugar. That being said, if I eat too much, I'm going to go right back there again. I feel like
it's going to recreate
the problem.
Form, yeah.
So, all diseases begin in the gut. Okay, so this is something we've talked about in the past, right? Let's say it's not just one disease or the 7 things we listed at the beginning. What if it's everything?
Yeah.
So it's a loaded statement, but it definitely seems true of autoimmune diseases. As you said at the beginning of this episode here, there's over 100 autoimmune diseases, and they're growing.
Well over 100, and the list is growing every year.
Yeah, and the thing that people always seem to fall back on in the end is some sort of autoimmune diet, and there's tons of them out there.
Yeah.
And they all involve eliminating something to work it out. And I'm not saying that one works better than the other. In fact, I think that everyone's different, and we will get to that shortly as well.
I think these days we're going through the paleo diets, and we've been through the Mediterranean diets, and we've been through all kinds of
we
things.
have keto and all those things, right?
Diets, yeah.
One thing that works for your neighbor possibly won't work the same for you. What is your body imbalanced in? So let's think of what we've just discussed, okay, and talk about the immune system briefly. So if the immune system naturally attacks invaders, the microbiome keeps it calm. And that's what we sort of see in this picture here. These little bacteria are thinking to themselves, okay, let's set up shop. But this is a really well-organized, diverse group in your microbiome. So if we imbalance our gut through eating one particular thing, which we just talked about, then that thing causes inflammation. Let's say it's an allergy, or it causes an overgrowth because we keep eating and eating and eating and eating. Then the imbalance will allow the foreign bacteria to find a weak spot, get in, and start to grow. And then the brain, well, it's going to attack the gut because it's not going to receive that nice balanced feedback from the microbiome anymore. It's going to be getting that bacteria in there, and it's going to be thinking, this is bad. We need to deal with this. And so it's going to move in there and cause inflammation, which sort of triggers these same problems we're seeing with autoimmune diseases, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're seeing a rise in tumor necrosing factors, which is part of the immune response, and we're seeing the brain producing inflammation.
Yep.
In response to all of that.
Yep.
and it's usually accompanied by heat, swelling, pain, and what's the fourth one?
Heat, swelling, pain, redness.
And redness.
Yeah.
Except in chronic inflammation, where those things are not that evident. It's mostly in acute. So yeah, so it could be going on. I think for years and years and years, we have not, or the mainstream medicine has not been looking at the gut as the main cause of anything. But now they are. Believe
Yeah,
me, they are.
they definitely are starting to look at it. I think they call it, is it functional medicine, where they're looking, it's essentially looking at what's the root of the problem.
Yeah,
Backtrace the conditions.
these are doctors that are breakaways.
Yes.
They're
they're definitely
rogues.
not. Yeah, they're rogue doctors, and they're looking at things and they're saying, well, hold on a second here. You have this disease, you have this disease, you have this disease. These diseases all have similar symptoms. They're manifesting in heart disease, hypothyroid,
Yeah.
you know, but it all comes down to, let's look at how you imbalance this in the first place. What threw this out of whack?
That's right. Functional medicine is what they call it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the gut-brain connection. Here we get into our microcurrent a little bit, away from the microbiome. We talked about this briefly, but the gut communicates with the brain through the vagus nerve, right?
Right.
And it actually sends significantly more signals to the brain than the brain sends back to the gut. And I think we've been referring to it, and other people as well. The gut can be referred to as
second brain.
Second brain. Yeah. So I also wanted to highlight the importance of the entire digestive system, because when people think of digestive system, they always think stomach, intestine.
Yeah.
Right. That's it. They're like, it's what I eat, it's what I poop. That is my digestive health.
It starts in the mouth.
It starts in the mouth. Yeah. There's the mouth, and then these little organs here, liver, gallbladder, and pancreas, they always get left out. They ended up being forgotten about. And as a person who experienced a lot of liver problems in my youth, and I still suffer from them today as a result of that, I'm constantly having to stay on top of my liver health while everything else falls apart.
If you remember when you were younger, you got a dose of hepatitis.
Yeah,
and
from food, right?
Food, yeah.
Yeah.
I won't say where from, because we don't want to be prejudiced.
But it got closed down, so you don't have to worry about eating from that. But yeah, so I got that, and that really threw me and knocked me out. And I moved past it. It took about 6 months, but I've always had problems. If I ever have a digestive problem, it's to do with my liver. You can always, it's 100%, it's that.
It's got memory.
Yeah, it remembers, and it sort of shuts down. It clogs up. So I'm going to talk briefly about the roles of the liver, gallbladder, and pancreas here. So the liver, it has multiple functions. Its main one is to process nutrients absorbed from the small intestine, and also bile from the liver is secreted into the small intestine to help destroy fat, right? Break down fats.
From the gallbladder, yeah.
Yeah. So the pancreas, it secretes digestive enzymes into the duodenum, the first segment of the small intestine as well, right? These enzymes break down protein, fats, and carbohydrates, carbs.
That's right.
And then the gallbladder, which is attached, nicely there onto the liver, stores and concentrates the bile, and then releases it into the duodenum to help absorb and digest fats. So all of these work in tandem.
Exactly.
But people forget them. So what happens, in your opinion, what have you seen? I mean, I know I've experienced it, when people have these out of whack, but the rest of their eating habits are fine. Is it a house of cards that comes tumbling down?
Pretty much, because the livers we used to say in French, it was our kitchen.
The liver's the kitchen.
The liver is the kitchen. And if you don't keep that kitchen functional, everything breaks down.
Sure, yeah.
So the liver has hundreds of different functions. I mean, we just mentioned there's very few.
Yeah.
But actually, it does an awful lot more. A couple of hundred different functions. And the gallbladder it works in tandem with the liver to be able to produce bile, to store bile, and to release quality bile, and also to normalize pH on the way down. The digestive system around the liver, gallbladder, and the liver has two major lobes to it. Actually, I think it has three. But the lobes where you see the green bits,
The little green veins.
little green veins.
Yeah.
This is where bile is stored in the liver. So it's not only in the gallbladder, so the liver is also participating in all of that. The gallbladder's major job, the bile, is to break down fatty acids into tiny little droplets. And those tiny little droplets, when they get back through the system and back into the liver, will be further metabolized by the liver. A fatty liver is one that where the gallbladder is not doing its job.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And these fats can end up in your system. They can end up in your kidneys, and they can block your kidneys, giving you another form of kidney disease.
So really, however you slice it, you got to take care of the whole package.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people don't think about the liver as being a major thing. It's just because somebody once said, and it's true, you can destroy 80% of the liver. It'll grow back, like
Yeah.
grows like beaver.
So they
grow
think it's
their
fine to
teeth.
let it go down.
Yeah, so they drink and they and alcohol, whatever, and they treat their livers really badly.
Yeah.
Really badly. And it just and when you get 81% of your liver damaged, then
You're
do
done.
what? Liver transplant.
Yeah. What about medications? Because liver also processes a lot of, it filters them out, right?
Yeah, it's got there's a pathway through the liver that actually normalizes or neutralizes chemicals.
So anything from Tylenol to opiates, they process through the liver, most of them?
Yeah, everything from hormones to medication, everything is processed through the liver.
And does it block it up the same way that eating a lot of
Well,
fatty
these little
foods and things do?
hepatocytes, you have millions of these little hepatocytes, which are tiny little, almost like grains of sand that make up your liver. And it's easy to block them up. They do get blocked up. It has its own immune system. They have Kupffer cells in there, so you have an immune response that guards over the liver at the same time. So the liver's got a heck of a job, but we don't really take that much care of it,
Yeah.
and we should. Don't wait till your eyes turn yellow.
Yeah. And the thing, we'll get to this in a second as well. It's really not that hard. A couple of good supplements, like, just taken every so often can really keep the liver turning over.
Yeah, definitely. We've identified, there are about half a dozen different things, herbs, and so on and so forth that can do wonders for your liver.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on. What are we looking at next? Dietary changes. So the thing,
Hey, you can do anything, but don't ask me to change my lifestyle.
that's exactly it. This is the section of the video where I think a lot of people will kind of
Well,
listen.
they'll take a walk.
Yeah. Take a break, right?
Take a break.
So we've got the why. We haven't really gotten the how, right? We know we need to improve our digestive system, keep our microbiome healthy, but honestly, the first step has got to be dietary changes. And this is the challenge, right? Everyone's intolerances cause them different problems, and they're individual problems, right? But it's a food thing. What you eat is gonna.
I wonder how many people out there actually have. There are two things. First of all, food allergy. An allergy is not all that prevalent.
Yeah.
But what is prevalent is intolerance.
Intolerances. Yeah.
And how many people actually have intolerances to food, and they may suspect it, but they are attracted to those foods so strongly that they'll override any of the symptoms that are negative.
Yeah.
Because if they took their pulse while they were eating certain foods and they found that their pulse would rise, it means that they also are having a high on adrenaline, bradykinin, a whole lot of other chemicals that we're producing.
Because it takes you to that edge, right? Where you're
It
like,
makes you feel so good when you eat this food.
And then as it gets down to your microbiome,
the microbiome are probably the guilty buggers that are making you crave these foods.
Like a person that says, I know I'm lactose intolerant, but I'm going to eat that ice cream. I'll deal with it later.
I love ice cream.
Yeah. Right? It's future me's problem.
Then they open the tub, and instead of taking the spoon out, they won't stop until they see the bottom of it. And what's feeding that?
Yeah, that's an addiction, right? 100%. So the only way we've really been able to figure it out, because we know that, if one person is allergic to gluten, the next person isn't. is to sort of eliminate, eliminate things in a process. Don't say I'm going to give up dairy, gluten, sugar, fruits and veggies, and leave yourself with nothing left to eat. Also, if your symptoms do disappear, how are you going to know which thing is the problem?
One of the ways I've been able to manage that with my client base has been to, let's say I had a boy come in and he had all kinds of digestive problems. He had pains in his tummy and he was a little hockey
Yeah.
player. He was a good guy. And his mom said, "You want to?" We've checked him out. We've had 3 medical specialists look at him, and they can't figure out. They think it might be psychosomatic.
Yeah,
Said,
of course. That's what they got.
"Well, that's really what." So after checking him out, I found that he was allergic to peanuts. Because I asked him, I said, "What is it that you eat the most?"
Peanut butter sandwiches?
Peanut butter. I said, "Why do you eat so much peanut butter?" He says, "Because my mother thinks that I need to eat peanut butter because it's a good
It's
protein
good
and I
protein
need
for you.
it to be able to function as a hockey
Yeah.
player." So
So
he
he
wouldn't
didn't
pretend
have,
about it.
he had an intolerance. He wasn't showing hives and stuff from it,
He
or
wasn't getting the hives or anything, but he was getting the stomach aches and the cramps, and he was cramped. And he cramped right up. So I told him, I said, "Here's what I want you to do." And his mom wasn't there. I kept the mom in the other room.
yeah,
And I said to him, I said, "Do you think that for 7 days
you can not eat
you
peanut
could
butter.
not eat peanut butter?" He
Yeah,
says, "I cannot eat peanut butter." He says, "We just have to convince my mother not to give it to me because she thinks that I'll die if I don't eat peanut butter,
sure.
just like milk or anything else."
Yeah,
Keep, I've heard people say, "What do you mean you don't want him to have milk? He'll die without milk.
yeah,
You got to have milk.
yeah.
Milk is not necessary." I hear it on
It
TV all
says
the
it on
time.
TV. Yeah, yeah. So that's it, right? But I'm guessing his problem was resolved.
His problem resolved within 5 days.
Yeah,
Here was the problem, and he was happy. He was playing. He was playing great. And then about a month later, I get a phone call from the mom. "Oh my God, Johnny's fallen. He's got the same problem. It's come back." So I bring him in. Bring him in.
was he eating peanut butter again?
Yeah, I asked him.
Why? Why, Johnny?
He said, "Because mom is feeding it to me." She said, "It seems to have better. You no longer have that problem."
Yeah, because it's gone, so you may as well leave it there. And that's the temptation, right? Your issue resolves from removing a food, and you think, I feel great, but that's your gut telling you again, being like, come on, give me the peanut butter. Those little microbiome
It's so funny.
that
It's so funny
loves.
because his mom must have had the same microbes.
She's just like, peanut butter is good.
Peanut butter.
So this is sort of what we suggest, right? Like as John said, you figure out the thing it could be, cut it out, see if it resolves itself. I think, a couple of weeks to a month off of a thing, and if your issue is not gone, it's probably not that thing.
Yeah, I negotiate 7 days. If you take it away, only 7 days, because nobody's going to die 7 days of abstinence. Let's face it.
Yeah, yeah.
Mark
You
in the
can
Bible,
survive.
you can do
Yeah.
more than that. So you can still thrive. You probably do an awful lot better. You mark your things down and you say, "Okay, that food I'm kind of suspicious of. That's the one that I love the most."
Yeah.
And most people will say, "Oh my God, I hope it's not that." But take it away for 7 days. If you get better in that 7 day
Even
period,
remotely a little bit starting to feel
here's
better.
what I want you
Yeah.
to do. I want you to introduce it on day number 8
And see if it comes back.
and watch, because what you had in the way of symptoms were mild because you were entertaining them. But on day 8, oh my God,
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah.
pains in your joints, all kinds of
It
things.
comes back worse,
Oh,
right?
it's going to come back a lot worse.
And I put on here, I put fruits and vegetables raw, and I did that for me. There seems to be this connection that's just being discovered, and I didn't hear about it at all until I went to an allergist to have these prick tests, and they came back and they told me that I have oral allergy syndrome, and essentially anything that has pollen involved, that's connected to the things I'm allergic to, if I eat it raw,
There's some kind of an elm or something. Like
birch. It was
birch.
birch for me.
Yeah.
If I eat any fruits or vegetables raw, I start to get itchy lips, to closing up throat, those sorts of things. So I have an allergic reaction and a lot of digestive problems. If I cook them, it changes the molecular structure of the
That's
food,
right. Yeah.
and then I'm able to eat them. So that's something to bear in mind, because everyone's always saying fruits and vegetables are super healthy, and I agree they are super healthy. But if you can't figure out what it is and you're still eating different fruits and veggies, maybe look at that, because it does manifest in guts as well as like openly. And it could be that you maybe don't want to cut out fruits and veggies, maybe roast them or something, something that
Yeah,
helps keep some
break
of the
the
nutrients
bonds.
in.
Heating up breaks the bonds of
Yeah,
the molecular structure, and
it does change things.
yeah, it does
Yeah.
changes the breaks the electrons loose, and that's all you need sometimes.
So as we were saying, right, give it 7 days, couple weeks, whatever you feel comfortable with, and just see. And yeah, introduce it after 7 days if you're feeling even a little bit better, and see if it comes back with a vengeance, because then you know.
If it's not that, if there's no change whatsoever, go to the next food.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And in that case, do you go back on the other food?
Yeah, you can go back on the other food,
Yeah,
but sometimes there's combinations as well.
it is. Yeah. So you got to, I mean, unfortunately, that there is no real simple way of testing and seeing, because even these allergy tests, however you go about them, they don't test you for everything.
It is difficult to take your pulse and say, "Oh, I think I got 3 more beats than usual."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's a process of elimination.
And
We got to do it.
sometimes you won't get the result until the next day.
Yeah. Okay.
You have what we call immunoglobulins type E's. Those are the most prevalent ones. And and those are like instantaneous, like those who get anaphylactic shock, for example, which within minutes after they taking the food, that is like a severe reaction.
Gotcha.
And some people have died eating peanuts or strawberries or something that they're allergic to. So it can become very severe. And so you need to know.
Yeah.
And IgGs are those like will only show up maybe 24 hours later.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're gonna keep that in mind. All right. So what are we on to next? Supplements. So there's a lot of things that we can put into our gut that can dramatically influence the inflammation and rebalancing the whole system. What we've done here is we have created a simple to obtain kit of supplements, but I've also broken them all down into a list of the herbs and the doses. It gets pretty overwhelming, but if you wanted to go find them in other places, that's totally fine. You can see here, you barely read it from this distance. We have for general digestive health, we're going to be supporting the liver and gallbladder, the stomach, and the intestinal flora.
Now that what's important here about the liver as well. When we talk about allergy, for example, or intolerances, you have to look at the allergy is only a symptom
Yeah,
of a problem.
yeah,
It means that there's a dysfunctional system in your body. And the dysfunctional system is what? Liver, gallbladder, pancreas. One of
one of
three,
those is out of whack.
the three that you just brought up a few minutes ago,
Yeah,
are always involved in this form of allergy.
the forgotten elements, right?
That's right.
And so we support the liver and gallbladder. We have gastric irritation supplements here as well. Enzymes, super important to have enzymes. And then a really strong probiotic. And I'm not going to say, you have to use this one or this one or this one, but an enteric coating is super important because, as John's explained to me, you want to go ahead and explain how the stomach is going to react to foreign bacteria.
Well, it's our first line of defense.
Yeah.
The stomach secretes the hydrochloric acid, and it's probably some of the extremely powerful stuff that you would probably burn the coating on your floor.
Yeah.
So
please
roll up.
I drop my little bacteria pill in there, my probiotic, and what happens to most of them? The stomach says, "Ooh, bad guys," and eats them up.
So it'll digest them.
Yeah.
It'll transform them just the same way it does with meat and protein and sugars and so on and so
Yeah.
forth. So the stomach acid, the stomach itself, the environment is actually a protective element.
Yeah, so it's a barrier to entry, right? Yeah.
It's a barrier to entry. So if you take, I mean, I don't care what your attitude is. You say, oh, I'm going to have this acidophilus. I'm going to take these capsules and I'm going to put them in my mouth and I'm going to swallow them with my meal. That's what it says on the bottle.
Yeah.
What do you think just happened to them?
I think they went down with my meal, and my stomach saying to my meal, "Oh, thanks, Rob. I'm going to digest you and everything else you brought with it." Right?
Everything else, and
Yeah.
because that's what my stomach does. It transforms everything. We hope.
Yeah.
That's what the major job is. So for years I used to see acidophilus take 2 with your meals. I said, what?
Okay, how am I supposed to do that, right?
What? I want to get it into my intestines. I don't want it to die in my stomach.
Yeah.
So this is where the enteric coating, and the enteric coating means that the stomach thinks it's the sugar, and it will pass it on directly into the intestine.
Exactly, yeah.
So there's even best times to do it before a meal. Definitely take your enteric coated probiotics, and they'll make their way into your small intestine.
Yeah.
Either that or put them up your poop chute. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, and I have actually read a significant amount of stuff as well about these fecal matter transplants that people do, and how they do make dramatic differences for people. And that just shows how powerful keeping this microbiome happy is, right? Like, you know, so if you want to avoid putting someone else's fecal matter inside your body,
and they do it through your nose,
through your nose, you need to have you need to take good care of yourself now, because
do it now.
That is the way they will go.
I don't know if I have George's fecal matter up my nose is going to be good. I don't know. I can't see that. No. I take care of it.
So we have come up with an all-in-one digestive health kit. It contains all of those, a little bit more, all the things we just listed on the previous section of the video. We've also provided a simple to use instruction card for dosage, so you don't have to go through and read every bottle and say, oh, how many of these do I take again? You just have it all on one card. It's really just about, like, I know for a lot of people, taking supplements can be a real drag and a chore to take your,
What you have there on the screen, I take every day.
Yeah.
I take these, for me, it's just part of my life.
Yeah.
I take these on every day. I take them every day.
But they've become habits, so it's okay. It works, right?
It's not a big deal. No. I mean, they're gone. But I know I can tell when I go on a trip, on a business trip. Sometimes I don't haul all my supplements away, and I'm anxious to get home.
Yeah, you can feel it. You need them.
God.
So this is our suggestion here. It's available at thesanashop.com. It's all in one place. Otherwise, we highly encourage you to go out and source all the things we said from wherever you can. Just make sure that they are good quality. Your local health food store should have some good ones, but if you go to your local grocery store, they're not really going to have the same quality ones.
The other thing, sometimes if you go to Whole Foods, that sort of thing, it's overwhelming because there's a million and one thing on those shelves, and you don't know what to pick. It's just too much.
Yeah.
And the products that we deal with these companies have been around, or these two companies have been around that I've been dealing with as a therapist, and they only sell to therapists. They don't sell to on the street. You won't find them in grocery stores.
No.
And so these are high potency,
dose,
high level. Yeah. This is what we said they sell to medical doctors and those the rogues that have made their way into the functional medical field.
Yeah, I can't even call up and order these. It has to be, you have to give your medical license number. That's how, I can walk into any store in town and buy supplements, but I can't order these ones.
That's right. They'll ask for your number.
Yeah.
So that's why you say, John, we need this.
And this is why we've included these dosage cards as well, because then you can know not what the bottle says necessarily, but what John from his experience recommends to deal with this issue, because sometimes one isn't enough. Maybe take, I think the enzymes is 4 a day, isn't it, or something like that?
But there's proteolytic enzymes is a big deal, because when you hurt yourself, there's a substance called fibrin that comes in to fill in the abscess.
Okay.
Right. And the fibrin is supposed to dissolve over time as the wound closes up, or whatever it is that's going on. You just have to bump yourself, and already you're producing fibrin. And the fibrin has been found that if you don't have the proteolytic enzymes necessary to dissolve the fibrin, it stays there and creates inflammation forevermore.
So it's as much an anti-inflammatory as it is a digestive.
Oh my God. I mean, yeah, definitely. This is why they say, proteolytic enzymes against inflammation is to dissolve the fibrin that causes the inflammation.
Gotcha. So, yeah. So this is our suggestion. You've got the list as well. So happy hunting. Okay. So then, beyond supplements, what we are known for in our field, Pain Free for Life, and before Pain Free for Life as specific health options, is microcurrent therapy.
Yep.
And there's a reason for that. the reason why, microcurrent therapy has been our go-to for 20 plus years at this point,
Yeah.
in its various different forms, is that it works. And it works, pretty much above all else. So what we use microcurrent therapy for in these cases for gut health is to directly influence the digestive system, help to rebalance it by removing blockages and inflammation, and, in our own special way, hijacking that communication network that we mentioned earlier. So general treatment, is very effective anti-inflammatory treatment. If you're bloated, if you've got discomfort, that does work. There are two other key therapies as well. There's the vagus nerve, and then there's the abdominal protocol. So we're going to take a brief look at those. So vagus nerve stimulation, non-invasive vagus nerve stimulation, because there are very invasive ones where they'll go into your neck and they implant an electronic device.
Well, yeah, there's a battery pack that goes like near your collarbone.
Yeah.
And you'll see that because it's kind of raised. They haven't made it small yet.
Yeah.
Okay. They're working on that. It's a project. And then you'll have another jelly bean sized thing that sits right on the vagus nerve itself. So you have two incisions, two areas to work, and the wires go under the collarbone and sit over here. And usually that can be controlled via possibly
an app
even
at this point.
Yeah, this could be an app.
Yeah, or a remote control if you're going
remote control. Maybe your doctor's the one that's controlling you. I want you to smile.
Yeah,
there you go.
So when you start to feel sick, you sort of press the button and
it's supposed to, it takes a little bit of time to set it up, but they may set it up so that it zaps you 4 times a day or whatever it is. And it's not a continuous zap. We do a 3-minute stimulation on vagus nerve, but these zappers probably only last for short periods of time.
But they do it very frequently, right?
More frequently.
Yeah. So our vagus nerve stimulation involves, if I had a machine, I'd do it right here, but it involves you go to the neck, you locate your pulse, you go a little bit behind it, and you just put the electrode there, because the vagus nerve actually sits right behind the carotid artery, right?
Right behind the carotid artery. We have some excellent videos that show the technique on how to do that.
So it's simple. Anyone can do it. There's even been a new conductive pad that came out, so you just stick it on and let it be. But it's non-invasive, and one thing that it does do very, very well, despite some of those things that are listed there on the screen on the little image, is with stomach issues and stomach upset. And it's actually been vagus nerve stimulation. There's actually a bunch of studies on Crohn's disease.
Crohn's disease.
Yeah. So what it does is, because the vagus nerve, as we saw in one of the earlier pictures, wraps around all of that digestive system, right? We're sending these calming alpha level signals up and down the nerve. So we're hitting the gut, the brain, and we're putting it in is it a parasympathetic state?
Well, the vagus nerve is involved in the parasympathetic state, which means that it's in eat, sleep, digest, assimilate, and repair mode. Right?
Yeah.
That's the one where you want to be most of the time.
And that turns off inflammation.
And
so if we eat something that doesn't agree with us, or we just have an irritable bowel problem in general, when our stomach gets upset, there's an inflammation component to that.
That's when you go into what we call a sympathetic state, which is the fight or flight.
And that's beta brainwaves.
Beta brainwave.
Yeah. And so when you're in those states, you need that. What will happen is the vagus nerve will switch you back, right? We call it flipping the switch.
Yeah.
It switches you back into your alpha frequency mode, and you can actually feel about in the second minute of the treatment, if you start from the very beginning of 0, you actually feel a jump to your stomach from neck down. And unless it's just my pro sport, let's hope it's not. But you feel sort of like
we're going to be auctioning off your pro sport
that actually touches your stomach. And so you sort of can feel it moving through the neck, and what it does is it will calm that down, it'll shut it down, and then stomach aches ease, inflammation down there will ease as well. So it's a really important thing. If you have an autoimmune disorder, this is why it could be vagus nerve could be impacting that so much.
It definitely can, and what they've been doing, what mainstream medicine has been doing with Crohn's, which is an autoimmune disease, which right away signals to me it's inflammation.
Yeah,
says right away. Irritable bowel syndrome is another one. So any of it, which is an autoimmune disease as well, which is inflammation again.
Yeah.
Right? which is like vagus nerve involvement.
Yep.
I had a medical doctor from an important community health center that had Crohn's disease. I met him at Pain Week, and he visited all the booths, and he kept drifting back over to our booth.
So he was interested, but
He said, I'm in. He says, I'm not into this, but I'm definitely not into what they're doing because they had opiates. You'd have to get in the booths. You had to walk over an opiate mat on the floor and all that. And he said, I'm definitely not interested in the rest of the show. He said, but what you're doing and what you're saying, and he says, and I'm seeing things happen real time, in full time. He said, but not them. All they do is talk. But what you do is do. You're
yeah.
treating pain. You're treating all kinds of things. I said, what do you have? He says, I have Crohn's. I said, okay.
So what did you do?
So we did some treatment on him at the time. And he came into one of my training sessions in Salt Lake City. And we treated his Crohn's. Well, he's been treating everybody's Crohn's since then.
That's his goal now.
Oh, yeah.
Fix the Crohn's. So, and this is the next technique we're going to talk about briefly as well, maybe the one that you did on him. So this is the abdominal protocol. Is
Exactly
this the one?
right. Yeah. Followed that we did Vegas, and then we went to abdominal protocol.
Yeah. So this is a little bit more of an advanced protocol. As you can see, we got kind of a grid here. It was a bit like a really distorted chessboard. And we work in the different areas.
Follow the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4,
and so on. Yeah. The 5,
goes
6.
right, and the point in the middle, the red plum point,
is
your umbilicus.
Yeah. Your belly button.
Your belly button. So it's like upper GI,
And
gastrointestinal, and lower GI.
And what this does is it works to figure out where these blockages and problems are, right?
Yeah, right.
And then you're communicating with the brain through microcurrent to say, hey, this is a blockage. The brain acknowledges it's a blockage, and then it can clear it. It's all about communication.
Extremely powerful protocol. I do it in just about every one of our training sessions. We do hands-on it. And there's always somebody who asks me, if you're going to do
It's me. I want to volunteer.
Yeah, I want to volunteer.
Yeah.
And there's a lineup.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah.
But the changes are almost immediate.
They are, and the best thing about it is the fact that it may look complicated. I think that the fact that we figured it out, but it is very easy, and we have our online training platform, the Hache Protocol Private Membership. We have a full descriptive training video in there on that as well. But even as I say here, around 30 minutes for an inexperienced user. I think 10 if you know what you're doing and you're moving fast. So that is a great one as well. That will be what we would follow up after vagus nerve with. All right, so I'm just going to recap briefly because we're coming to the end now. So point 1, many major health concerns are linked to the strength of our gut. There's no denying that at this point.
There's no denying that.
No. Point 2, the reason for this is our microbiome, which has a huge effect on how our body functions overall. The digestive system, point 3, consists of more than just our intestines and stomach, and I think we've emphasized enough how important it is to take into account these other little kitchens. The kitchen. And there are significant supplements that can help to fix an imbalanced gut and clear the table to allow it to remain healthy and balanced as well. And then finally, microcurrent therapy can help to electrically rebalance the gut and undo blockages that may be causing major problems. And it's all non-invasive as well.
Yeah, it's almost like closing your eyes and imagining a group of cells that are really healthy.
Yeah.
And over here on the left, I have a group of cells that are kind of diseased. They're not doing so well.
Yeah.
So what I want to do is I know that these cells on the right have an electromagnetic field. They have a resonance which is high. They resonate at that level.
Okay, yeah.
And the sick ones, they don't resonate quite as high as the ones on the right. So microcurrent, what it does is actually ups the resonant value of these sick cells, bringing them to the resonant value of the healthy cells. So now they can go and play together.
It fixes them so they can hang out. They're not quarantined anymore.
No longer quarantined.
And it is surprisingly simple. No matter how confusing it may seem, it's not a challenging technology to use.
No, I think that right now we're taking the world by storm as they're starting to realize that, that organization that I had full faith in, that I believed in, that was going to save me, has turned out to be corrupt, has turned out to be a killer. Like 1 year, 74,000 people last year died of
Yeah.
opiates. That people were getting these prescriptions at the end of it. So much medication that you could have medicated every man, woman, and child in America
Yeah.
with a dose of opiates.
So
That's how much opiates were out there.
that's it. Right now is the time people are looking for an alternative.
Now they're going, oh my God, I trusted them. Now look what's happened.
Yeah.
And so much, so many deaths that actually, for the first time, I think in history, humanity has slowed down in the process.
Yeah.
Because these deaths kind of became a ball and chain.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for watching the first episode of Current Medicine, the web series. If you have any further questions, please send us an email at support@painfreeforlife.com or leave them in the comments below. You can even just give us a call. The number's on the screen there, and we'll be happy to help.
So let us know how you perceive this. Is it something that helps you? Is there something that we could do that could even enhance it more?
Yes.
It would make it more enjoyable for you.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you wanted to click off after the first 5 minutes?
Yeah. Was it interesting? Was it helpful? I mean, ultimately, what we're trying to do is produce things for you that are helpful to your health experience.
Right.
Right. So that is our goal, and that is what we hope we've done.
If you would like to learn how to finally resolve your chronic pain, download our free ebook that uncovers the 5 interactive strategies of the Hache protocol for chronic pain resolution at painfreeforlife.com.